It's Nicole Safely with I Am Fierce, and we are here with the Art of Confidence event, how to build unstoppable confidence and skyrocket your revenue. I am just really thrilled today to have our next speaker, Tammy Durden. And you guys, Tammy is actually pretty amazing. I've been so blessed doing all of these interviews. I just hope that each of you has gotten as much value out of the conversations that we've had. And Tammy is going to deliver, no doubt, another amazing session. You guys, Tammy Durden is a business coach with over 15 years of experience in the online service industry. Tammy helps women online service providers to start, grow, and scale their online dream business. Tammy started her own online company because she needed to be able to work from home after she became disabled due to multiple sclerosis. She knew if she ever had enough work that she wanted to be able to empower other disabled professionals to work from home as well. And that's exactly what she did. Tammy's business journey began by providing lead generation and virtual assistant services. And then as the business grew, she created a virtual assistant agency. Within a few years and much more education, Tammy transitioned the company into a small boutique digital marketing agency. And during this time, she also provided coaching and mentoring. Then at the end of 2020, she exited her agency to offer business coaching full-time. In addition to business coaching, Tammy is also an online instructor with a large online freelance community, as well as a speaker for online events. She is married to her soulmate of 37 years. I don't have my glasses on, you guys, so forgive me. Together, she and her husband have 3 grown children and 5 grandchildren, and they also minister in their local church where her husband's the pastor. We actually have that in common. Tammy, my husband's father, is our preacher, so I can totally relate, and we may get there with you talking about, growing into this space and what have you. But in her free time, she enjoys to do Bible study, scrapbooking, reading, and taking cruises with her husband. Tammy, welcome. I'm curious, where was the last cruise? Where'd you guys go?
We actually went to Bahamas and the Keys last time.
Oh,
We've been to Mexico. We're getting ready in September to go to Bermuda. I'm so excited because I
ooh.
hear it's gorgeous. So I'm really excited about that
Oh my
one.
gosh. Yeah, that sounds like an amazing trip. Well, thank you for being here. I'm super excited to dive into this topic today. We're going to get there. Tammy and I are going to talk a little bit about how to create a successful or to work successfully with VAs, with a VA agency, really in the notion of scaling your business. But first, Tammy, I want to know a little bit more about your story, because when you talked about, having MS that kind of came on and how that really changed your life and led you down this path. Tell me a little bit about the creation of your coaching and your agencies, and then we'll dive into the, tactics of using VAs.
Absolutely, Nicole. First of all, thank you for having me to the event. I'm excited to share whatever I can with your group. And so I look forward to sharing whatever you would like me to share. But my journey began over 15 years ago, really more than 20 years ago, when I became very ill and I had 3 small children, all of which were still in elementary school. And Jonathan, my youngest, who's now 27, so I'm aging myself, was in preschool. And I became very ill and we didn't know what was going on. I got to the point where I had to hold on walls to
Oh my
walk,
goodness.
and eventually I looked like the Energizer Bunny. My kids teased me because I had to use a walker. I've had to learn to walk again so many times I can't count it. But
Mm,
anyway, eventually I was diagnosed with MS. And later I was also diagnosed with lupus and some other autoimmunes. Once you have one, you tend to get more,
mhm.
unfortunately. But I became very disabled with that first major attack, and began to have to use assisted devices and things like that. So I use a forearm crutch most of the time. But if I'm going to be out for any length of time, I also have a scooter.
Oh, there you
So,
go.
yeah, so it did create quite a disability in me. And then when we moved to Virginia, my husband had a new congregation. We moved to Virginia. We're blessed to buy a home, but we could certainly use additional income. My
Yeah.
background was in accounting, bookkeeping, and all of that kind of thing. Administrative was an easy fit. And so we needed that extra income. And back in 2008, it was still a little sketchy online,
Yeah.
trying to find something. And I got taken for a scam. And so after that point, I looked for something local in my local
Mhm.
newspaper, found an insurance agent who needed help for somebody to work from home. I said, perfect fit,
Oh,
where I'd work a few hours a week, helping him with virtual assistant work and lead generation, making calls and appointments and things like that. And apparently I was pretty good at it because his colleagues began to say, where are you getting all this help? And
ah,
so he started referring me out to his colleagues. And that's how it began. And he looked at me one day and said, you have a business. I said, no, I don't. He said, oh, yeah, you do. And then it hit me. Oh, I do,
yeah.
And I come from a home of entrepreneurs, my parents were and everything else, but they never taught me the journey or how to start a business or any of that. So that
Right.
was all.
Well, I love how it just emerged, right? Sometimes just doing the things we do every day, that's where the gold is. And that's part of what I want to do and I'm doing. And I am fierce is helping female entrepreneurs, even if they don't know what they want to do, to identify like what's your zone of genius and what could you put together, and then looking at, who are your ideal clients and how might you serve them, and just getting started in the things that you do. But what really intrigues me about your story, for a lot of people in that situation, having those health issues, probably wouldn't have thought the first thing I'm going to go do is start a business, right? And so,
Right.
how was it in getting, kind of taking that leap into the business with all the other things going on? And then tell me a little bit about what you created from that.
And did I mention that I have begun homeschooling 3 children?
Oh, holy moly.
Right, the year before. So,
Oh,
yes, so, I started out with just a little desk in the corner of our master bedroom,
uh-huh.
right? And then as the kids grew and moved out, I got a bedroom and, those kinds of things. But, yeah, so in the beginning, and I encourage those who are stepping in with just trying to decide, really just take time to check things out, to really kind of figure out what it is. Like you're saying, find your passion. I love to sit people down and say, okay, list out, some of your passions, and then list out your skills and where do those overlap, that you could provide something to others. And that's really because if they do that, they're working their passion, and, they'll enjoy the journey. It won't be
A slog.
something like, oh, I have to go to work. It's I get to go.
Exactly. I
Right.
get to go to work. And yes, all the
Exactly.
experiences that come with that. And so after
Mm.
you had your agency and you'd kind of gotten established, you created a system. Basically you created a way to bring other people with disabilities into the space and be able to have the flexibility. What does that look like today? Like how does that work? Like how many people do you have in your agency, or do they still work with you now that you've sold the agency?
Actually, no, because I transitioned out of the agency.
Okay.
But the great thing was that I knew many people in the industry and had another partner with another business. And so I approached her and to see if she'd be willing to take my clients and my team, because I didn't want them to all of a sudden panic and not have that work, or my clients to not have that support. And so we really did a great transition. We made sure everybody met with both of us, and all of those things to transition everybody. The key element in building any team, though, is processes and systems. Honestly, I had the best compliment from one client one time, when I had to transition her to another team member. And she said, Tammy, it doesn't matter who you put me with, because you have the best systems and processes in place that I don't even notice a difference other than a different name who I'm dealing with. And
Oh,
that
wow.
was such a high compliment, because, and that's really what you want in your business. You don't want the turnover to create turmoil for your
Right.
clients, right?
It should be seamless. Absolutely. And I would imagine, when you think about, I mean, that's a great segue into how do you, when you're ready to scale, you need it to be more than just yourself, right? And you're ready to scale with a virtual assistant, the systems, having those
Yes.
systems in place before. Tell me what
Yes,
you
I
need it to
really,
kind of,
yeah.
yeah, get
When
started
I'm
with.
Right. When I'm working with clients, I really encourage them to have systems and processes in place as much as possible. If they can't get them all in place in time, what I suggest then is that they go through and they figure out what is one task they want to first offload, and then what's the next one, those kinds of things, to determine those processes are the ones that you have to get done first, of course, right? So that you can hand those processes off to that VA, or to that team member, whatever it is your business is doing, because it makes it very difficult when you're so busy and you know it's time to add a team member, but you don't have time to train somebody because you're so busy, right?
Yes.
Doing the work of the business and in it instead of on it.
Mhm.
You know, and so it really is key that you, even as you're building a business, go ahead and start those processes and systems, write everything down or document it in some way. And then what I did moving forward after that was each team member. So, like, I had, in the end, a digital marketing agency. So we did social media, email marketing, SEO, blogging. We did some graphic design as well. So what I did after that point then, so it was almost like departments, and
Uh-huh.
I would have each team member that worked in those specific departments to have to maintain those processes.
Mm.
Because if we change something or something changed within the industry, it was much better for them to update it, excuse me, than for myself to try and go in there and update it and talk to them and back and forth. So I made them responsible for maintaining those processes.
Yeah, that's key. I work in the software industry and, typically the minute that you write documentation, it's out of date. So, how critical it is. And it checks your processes, not only writing the process, but following the process, and ensuring like, oh, I haven't left out a step. So those are the details that I don't really like, but I know that they're necessary
I
to get,
know.
yeah. So, as you talk to maybe potential clients, how do you place the value of using a VA? Because I know a lot, especially solopreneurs or small businesses, a lot of times like, oh, I can't afford yet to have a VA. What would you say to
Right. Well, I think sometimes we can't afford not to have one, to be
them?
honest, because we're so busy, and a VA just really comes alongside you and and helps you and assists you and takes some of the weight off of your shoulders so that you can actually work on the business instead of just always working in it. Now, there may be some things that you want to maintain the same because it's a profit and it's what you're doing to
Mhm.
help create revenue. I understand that, but there's so many other aspects of business that a virtual assistant or a digital marketer can really help you with. And their expertise nowadays is in everything from digital marketing
Mhm.
to just admin, and even more than that. So they're used to working with high-end clients and really help coming alongside them and helping them. And just investing that little bit, more than likely you will see the return on that investment in a short period of time. I would even say 6 to 12 months or earlier, quite
Yeah.
often.
And I think that's the way to view it, right? Is it is an investment, and where am I going to get the 10x return from this? And then, using that to leverage and make more money versus justifying an expense, right? Um, so when you talk about the type of work that VAs typically do, what do you find maybe the kind of the best use of someone in that space is, or is it just really anything?
Well, I think it depends on the industry you're in as well. Certainly, a lot of people have value having them maintain, in their calendar and their email.
Mm,
They don't have time, maybe. So there's always a case for administrative work, but there's also great value in those higher end tech tasks. A lot of coaches, speakers, and all of that don't want to get involved in the tech. And so they really need somebody who can help them with some of those tech features. Sometimes they want to write the copy, but they don't want to do the tech, so it really just depends. I have found, at least in the industry, and adding a contracted team member like that can be so valuable. So it really depends on the industry. Like for me right now, I have a VA who's helping me with my social media.
mm,
And it's been great because she can do a lot of posting, make the reels, things like that was eating up time, but also that I may not have been as great at. That's the other thing. We try to do tasks that we're not really qualified sometimes, or at least not great at. So it
right.
takes us 2 to 4 times longer, right? And we're
Yeah.
eating up that time that somebody else could do it for us.
Yeah, when you look at what your billable rate and look at the tasks that you're doing and just
Exactly.
asking yourself, is this thing really gonna produce this much, or would it be better for me to have someone else to assist, and you probably get a better result if they're, specialized in it. That's kind of the
Yes.
whole E-Myth revisited, right? Have you ever read that book? The E-Myth?
I Parts of it, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, parts of
Yeah,
it,
that
yeah.
whole notion, we become business owners and we spend 90%, 90 to 95% of our time doing everything except for the thing that we really love, right? And it's
Right,
the accounting,
right.
it's the legal, it's the marketing. And so hiring those professionals, it gets done faster and so much better. Would you suggest, I know
Absolutely.
you had an agency, um, and people contact me all the time, individual VAs. Do you have a preference between working with an agency and maybe hiring an individual as a VA?
Not necessarily. The one I'm working with now is an agency, so
Okay.
that's great. I think it really, it depends on the person themselves. If they
Mm,
want one person they want to work with, working with the agency, generally speaking, you work with one individual, but there's a person behind that you meet face to face with often. Like
yeah.
I did strategic meetings once a month with every client, so I was still the face of the company.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I encourage those who want to bring on a team to do that, to still be kind of the face of the company, but put the other tasks to other people. And there's a lot of ways to manage that. In the beginning, I was like a helicopter manager, everything had to come through me, right?
Right.
But then as I eased up and learned over the years to let go of that and actually do a virtual introduction to my team member with the client, it was so much easier and freed me up so much more. And so learning how to be a hands-off manager is really hard and takes time, but that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, it certainly is. So one of my mentors, if you will, is Robert Kiyosaki. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but then listening and reading his book, The Cash Flow Quadrant, right? We earn money in several different areas. You can be employed with an employer, you can be self-employed, an investor, or a business owner. And he makes such a distinction between being that self-employed person versus a business owner. And everything you're talking about is really in that space of the business ownership, and that I need the systems, I need to have the team, I need to be able to lead, and so that often is the stretch too as we begin to scale. And I know you're a business coach. Tell me a little bit about how you advise your clients and work with them maybe as they're making that transition. What are the things you think are most important when we think about getting ready to scale?
Well, the number one thing, again, is the processes and systems, trying to get those in place. But if you can't get it all in place, as I said, pick, one or two things that either you don't do well or you really dislike doing. So pick a couple of things that fall into that category. Really make sure you have the processes in place for that, even if it's a video walkthrough. And the other thing I always did too with the team member was still do a Zoom session where we walked through it on screen and all of that and record it, and they have that as well. So there's, a number of ways. I was always available to them too, especially in the beginning as they're learning.
Yeah.
It takes more time in the beginning, and you'll feel like, wait a minute, I was supposed to get more time.
Right.
But after the first couple of months, it really does begin to, they have the process down and everything working. So I just think those are the main things: picking out some of the tasks that you don't do well, that you don't like doing. Okay. And then really sitting back and saying, okay, what's left in those tasks and what do I want to keep ultimately? And I remember I did a webinar with SCORE. I don't know if you're familiar with
Yeah.
SCORE. Yeah, I did a webinar with them one time about outsourcing, help. And I had a woman who contacted me for services,
Mm-hmm.
and she did everything to a T that I talked about in that webinar. But what she sent me was this discombobulated list of, like, I can't even tell you all the things that she needed help with. And I thought, okay, I've got to somehow put this into categories, because she equated like helping admin with high-end marketing, and so I had to really break things out and say, okay, well, this is falls into email marketing, this falls into blogging, this falls into social media help, and
Right.
really categorize everything for her, because she thought she could just get one rate. And I said, well, that's not really how it works. And by the time we categorized it all and decided on her packages, she really did receive a lot of help and was so glad to get that help from me, and our team. In the
Yeah.
end, she ended up using all of our services. So,
Yeah.
so it's really helpful, but she thought it would be like just admin work. And I'm like, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
that's
There's so
not
much
quite what
more.
it is. So, yeah, so just being realistic in what it is that you need help with
Mm-hmm.
too, and realizing that that may not come at a $10 an hour rate,
Mm-hmm.
because those who are highly skilled in tech and tech savvy and all of that are going to charge a little more, but they're going to be worth it because they're not going to take as long either.
That's a good point. Yeah, you get what you pay for. And oftentimes when you go with a lower priced option, you end up having rework or things that aren't
Mhm.
exactly what you would like to have, And so making that
Absolutely.
investment, like you said, it can absolutely be less expensive to do that for sure. So
Mhm.
I mean, I think this is such an important topic when we think about having confidence in our business tactics and strategies, and having the confidence in yourself of where your business is going, and allowing yourself to treat it like a real business with the help that you need. Excuse me, being smart about how you bring those people on, being clear about what you need them to do, inspecting that, and then just continuing to grow. Tammy, I could probably talk to you all day and like, tell me more. What do I need to do? Because I too am still developing all of these systems and getting the things in place that we need. But I won't. I know that you do want to connect with everyone. And did you have an offer that you wanted to share with the group as far as how they can reach out to you and how might they engage you in your services?
Absolutely. Thank you, Nicole, for allowing me to do that. First of all, I did want to say something to speak to confidence too, because I
Please.
know a lot of people feel like they don't have the confidence to hire, to scale, to do those things. But the more you step into it, the more confidence you get. And so I just encourage you to really step into that. And yes, I have a free scaling checklist for those who are looking at scaling their business on my website under the free offers. And my website is simply fearlessbusinessboss.com. So,
Fearlessbusinessboss.com. So go out and get the scaling checklist. I want to say this. When I heard the word scaling, as a solopreneur, as a coach, I'm like, I'm not ready to scale. And you may not be like, the first is to get your systems in place. Like we call it, test it, nail it, scale it. So don't start to scale until you know kind of where you're going in the general direction. Maybe you've got a product offering out there, and then you've kind of tested it, get it perfected. And then you can start to look at, okay, now where do I pour the fuel on, right? And I have the system that's working.
Absolutely.
We just need to do the work to figure that out first, be patient in that, and then look at, okay, where do I go? Now, if you're not at that place ready to scale, you still want to go and do this because you want to have the end in mind. So by thinking about scaling now, you can start to get the things in place to, for when you're ready. In other words, don't be scared of the word. You're going to get there. And it's best to think about it now than when the time comes, because you can set yourself up for success. Tammy, thank you
Absolutely.
so much for taking time today to share this. You guys, I invite you again, go out and get the scaling checklist from Tammy, connect with her. We also have our private Facebook group. So Tammy, you're welcome to jump in there. I would love to have people be able to pick your brain a little bit. Will you be able, you are joining us for an Ask Me Anything session, right?
Yes, I
Which day
am
are we
on
doing?
Saturday morning, so I'll be
Okay.
in that session. Yes.
Yeah. So Saturday morning at 9 o'clock Central, we're doing Ask Me Anything. Tammy and several other coaches will be live, and you can come in and literally ask them any questions you have about your business. Doesn't necessarily have to be in anybody's specialty. Just come and ask questions. That's the beautiful thing. You've got a lot of experienced folks that will be with us and help to point you on the way. All right, Tammy, thank you so much. Have a good rest of your day, and we'll see you
Yeah,
in the
bye
next
everyone.
episode.
Thanks.
Yes.